Imagine this. New Year's Eve. A night usually just pulsating with celebration, the promise of new beginnings.
Yeah, everyone's looking forward.
But what if that whole joyous atmosphere on what seems like a totally idyllic island turned into something profoundly sinister? A chilling mystery that, still haunts a nation decades later.
It's that kind of sudden, almost unbelievable turn. A tragedy that really captures the imagination and maybe taps into fears we don't often think about.
Absolutely. And for anyone who follows New Zealand's most enduring mysteries, the names Olivia Hope and Ben Smart, they immediately bring you back to that specific New Year's Eve in the Marlborough Sounds. So this deep dive, it isn't just retelling the story. We're going to try and explore the layers, the conflicting evidence, the shifting testimonies, and really the persistent questions that keep dividing opinion around one of the country's most notorious cold cases.
It feels like a case where every single piece of information seems to have a little asterisk next to it,
Yeah.
demanding a closer look.
Yeah, exactly. We'll be sifting through it all, trying to understand how two young people could just vanish, and how the investigation afterwards led to this, incredibly controversial conviction that, honestly, for many people, still doesn't feel like the end of the story.
Not by long shot.
Okay, let's set the scene. It's New Year's Eve, 1997, rolling over into 1998. We're in New Zealand's Marlborough Sounds stunning place.
Beautiful area.
And the heart of the party is Furneaux Lodge, tucked away there in Endeavour Inlet. Picture this, dreamlike location, right? Huge annual celebration, hundreds of boats, thousands of people.
Just packed.
And 17-year-old Olivia Hope, she arrives with her sister Amelia and a group of 9 friends. Their plan is to sleep on the small yacht they rented, anchored out there amongst all the festive chaos.
The whole inlet was just crammed. A vibrant mix of lights, music, boats everywhere. The sheer number of people, it created this, almost claustrophobic sense of community.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it offered countless places for someone, or, something, to just disappear.
So as New Year's Day, 1998 starts to dawn, the party's winding down. Most people are heading back to their boats. Olivia and 21-year-old Ben Smart, who she already knew, by the way, they're among the last from their group, still out, just enjoying those last moments.
Trying to soak it all up.
Around 1 a.m., they finally decide, okay, time to head back to Olivia's yacht.
But this is where the story takes that really pivotal and frankly baffling turn.
What?
When they get back to Olivia's yacht, it's completely full.
Right. Not just with their sleeping friends, but even new people who had crashed there.
Total strangers, maybe. There was just no room. None at all for Olivia and Ben.
So probably a lot of tired party goers looking for a quick fix. They hail a water taxi. They figured they'll find somewhere to stay ashore.
Makes sense.
On this water taxi, there are 3 other passengers, a couple, and a lone young man.
And this is the absolute critical moment. This lone male passenger on the water taxi offers Olivia a place to sleep on his yacht. He even makes this pretty unsettling joke, initially saying Ben couldn't come along.
Which is weird, right?
Very weird. And despite, pretty obvious concerns from the water taxi driver, a guy named Guy Wallace, Olivia and Ben, probably just exhausted, wanting somewhere to lie down, they accept the offer.
Guy Wallace then drops off Olivia, Ben, and this lone man at the stranger's yacht.
And that's it.
Chillingly, that was the last time anyone ever saw Olivia Hope and Ben Smart.
Vanished.
They vanished into thin air, boarded a stranger's boat in the dead of night, and just gone. No trace left behind.
The immediate result of this was, a slow dawning realization of dread. It wasn't instant panic.
No, not at all. The next morning, January 1st, Olivia's friends, her sister Amelia included, they wake up. Olivia's not on the boat.
Okay.
Their first thought, she probably went back to shore with Ben. Maybe she was a bit annoyed with them for taking up all the space.
Right. A logical assumption at the time.
So thinking nothing more of it, really, they head back to the mainland themselves.
But those alarm bells, they started ringing pretty quickly after that. When Amelia got home, Olivia still wasn't there.
That's when the panic must have really set in.
Absolutely. And Ben's family, they also report him missing. Suddenly, what might have seemed like, kids staying out late, it escalated. It became something far more sinister. The question wasn't just where are they? It was what happened to them.
The police were informed immediately, of course. They started interviewing friends, printing posters, searching the Marlborough Sounds extensively.
Huge area.
Covered. Huge. But found absolutely nothing. No sign of Ben or Olivia. The breakthrough, if you can even call it that, came when Guy Wallace, the water taxi driver, came forward.
The key witness.
The key witness. He described dropping the couple off, and he talked about the, deeply suspicious behavior of the man who owned the yacht. He even mentioned the man making suggestive comments to Olivia.
Okay, so that really shifts things. With no bodies found, the focus now goes entirely to identifying this unknown yachtsman.
Yeah.
He's now, unequivocally suspected of foul play. The hunt was on for a person, not just for missing people.
So, as the investigation gets deeper, police start building a profile of this mystery guy. They believed he was older than Ben and Olivia, had dark, long, kind of messy, wavy hair, maybe a thin beard, possibly a bit unkempt looking.
And the boat description.
The yacht was described as large, white with blue stripes, had these big round windows, and generally looked like it was in good condition.
Okay, pretty specific details.
Based on this and a composite sketch that was circulated everywhere, police eventually arrested a suspect, 26-year-old Scott Watson. He'd also been at the New Year's Eve party.
Right, but the striking thing here, the immediate contradiction, is that Watson himself just didn't seem to fit that description. Not really.
How so?
Well, his appearance, for starters. Watson had short, dark hair. He was clean-shaven, looked pretty neat, actually. Starkly different from the sketch in Wallace's initial description.
All right, that's significant.
And his yacht, the Blade and Joy. It was smaller, a single-masted sloop.
Yeah.
Mostly white, yeah, but with some red trim. And crucially, it was made of metal, not wood, which Guy Wallace had described.
So Wallace himself must have pointed this out.
He did. Wallace insisted that Watson and his boat, they just didn't match his memory of that night.
That's genuinely perplexing. You have these really distinct differences, appearance, boat type, yet the police seem to, just zero in on Watson?
It seems that way. They effectively started suggesting Guy Wallace's memory might be flawed. Maybe because it was dark.
Explaining away the discrepancies.
Which, as you know, happens in controversial cases sometimes. An initial theory gets locked in, and evidence that contradicts it gets reinterpreted rather than properly challenged.
And the prosecution, they definitely built a strong circumstantial case around Watson's character and his past, which you have to say painted a pretty concerning picture.
Yeah, his history wasn't clean. He had, 48 previous convictions?
Yeah.
Mostly from when he was a teenager. Things like burglary, robbery, assault, weapons charges, drug possession.
Not minor stuff.
No. And the police highlighted his known aggressive behavior when he was drunk. Now, obviously, a past record doesn't automatically mean guilt for this crime.
Of course not.
But you can see how that kind of record could immediately color a suspect negatively. For investigators, and maybe later, for a jury too, it makes it easier to accept the narratives being built against him.
And there were quite a few witness accounts of his behavior on that specific New Year's Eve, right?
Yeah.
Erratic, aggressive.
Yeah, multiple counts. Apparently, he accosted one man, mocking his pearl necklace, which turned out to be a really personal memento of the guy's deceased sister. Just incredibly disrespectful.
Wow.
Described as aggressive. There are also allegations of sexual misconduct. Witnesses reported him approaching women, inappropriate touching, verbal harassment, basically without consent.
Not good.
And another couple even said they woke up to find Watson on their boat, trying to get them to keep partying with him.
An intruder, essentially. Okay, so that's the picture the police and prosecution painted. But Watson himself.
He vehemently denied everything, any involvement in the disappearances. His story was he partied until about 3 a.m., then went back to his yacht, the Blade and Joy. He said he tried to wake some other people up for more partying, but they weren't interested. So eventually he just gave up and went to sleep.
Did anyone back that up?
Well, his sister, who lived on the boat with him before, she testified his behavior seemed completely normal after the party. No signs of distress, no unusual requests, nothing out of the ordinary for him.
And the early attempts to find hard evidence against him, they didn't really pan out either, did they?
No, they didn't. Yeah. Police wiretapped his home, found absolutely zero incriminating conversations.
And didn't a photo surface?
Yes, exactly. A photo from the party showed Watson clean-shaven, directly contradicting the key witness description of a bearded man.
It really underscores how fragile memory can be, especially under stress or, late at night after a party, and how careful you have to be weighing that kind of eyewitness testimony.
Absolutely crucial. And the case, it only gets more tangled when you look at the testimony of Watson's friend.
Ah, yes, the alibi witness.
Initially, this friend totally backed up Watson's timeline. Said Watson arrived at his place around noon the next day, January 1st, to paint his boat.
Okay, so far so good for Watson.
But then later, under police questioning, the friend changed his story. Now he's saying Watson didn't arrive until 5 p.m.
A 5-hour difference. That's significant.
Hugely significant. The police jumped on that. They interpreted this 5-hour gap as the time Watson needed. Time to commit the crime or maybe dispose of the bodies.
But Watson had a different explanation for why his friend might have changed his story.
He suspected police coercion. He thought maybe they were using the fact his friend was growing marijuana as leverage to get him to change his testimony.
Plausible deniability on both sides there. And the search of Watson's boat itself. Also contentious, right?
Very. Police found only about, say, 30% of the boat had been cleaned recently. And they noted some suspicious scratch marks near a vent.
Which they saw as
evidence tampering, trying to cover something up. But Watson said, look, he cleaned it himself, alone, and those scratches, they were old, from a wooden prop he'd used for years to hold the window open.
So again, two completely different ways to interpret the same physical detail?
Exactly. But then came the hair evidence, and this became the absolute linchpin for the prosecution.
Right. This is the most debated part, isn't it?
Probably. So, 2 months after an initial, very thorough search of a blanket from Watson's boat, a search which found only his hair, about 400 strands of it.
Okay.
A second search of that same blanket suddenly yielded 2 blonde hairs, about 20 centimeters long, and these were identified as belonging to Olivia Hope.
Wow. Okay, the integrity of that was immediately questioned, surely.
Immediately and intensely. I mean, it's the same blanket, searched thoroughly once, nothing found. 2 months later, searched again, and bingo.
Highly suspicious timing.
And it gets worse.
Yeah.
The sample of Olivia's actual hair, the one stored by the police for comparison, it was found to have a hole in the Ziploc bag it was kept in.
Oh, come on.
Yeah, raising huge fears about contamination or even, the possibility of intentional planting of evidence.
That hair evidence became everything for the prosecution, didn't it? But its origin story, it's like a masterclass in how compromised forensics can just cast this permanent shadow over a conviction.
It really is. Chain of custody, how samples are handled, these aren't just bureaucratic details. They're the foundation of trust in the whole system. When a hole appears in an evidence bag or hairs miraculously show up months later, it doesn't just raise doubts, it can undermine the entire case for many people.
Yet, despite these really significant doubts, the police position was clear. These hairs were definitive proof.
They scucked that.
And wasn't there also something about modifying Watson's photo?
Yes, another point of contention. Police apparently altered Watson's photo slightly, trying to make it match Guy Wallace's description of the man having shifty eyes.
Seriously?
They then got Wallace to concede that the altered photo looked similar, which again helped solidify their conviction that Watson was the guy.
So putting all that together, the circumstantial evidence, the changed alibi, the controversial hair evidence.
Ultimately, on June 15, 1998, Scott Watson was formally arrested, charged with the murders of Ben Smart and Olivia Hope. In September 1999, after a trial, he was found guilty of murder.
And sentenced to life imprisonment with a minimum non-parole period of 17 years.
That's right.
And for, over 25 years now, Watson has consistently, absolutely denied his guilt.
Never wavered on that.
He refuses to admit to the crimes, which is a major reason he's had, I think, 4 parole attempts fail. He maintains his innocence completely, refuses to confess to something he swears he didn't do.
And crucially, perhaps the most haunting aspect of all this, the bodies of Olivia Hope and Ben Smart have never, ever been found.
Leaving their fate officially unconfirmed, although everyone presumes they're dead.
Right. But that absence, the lack of the victims themselves, means the primary evidence is circumstantial. It's a narrative built without that most fundamental piece of proof.
And then there's the tragic end for Guy Wallace, the key water taxi driver witness, the one who initially cast doubt on Watson looking like the suspect.
Yes, he died by suicide in 2021. Very sad.
And apparently he left a letter related to the case, but its contents haven't been disclosed.
Which just fuels even more speculation, more questions about what he might have known, or perhaps what private struggles he had related to his testimony over the years.
It just adds another layer of mystery to an already deeply mysterious case.
The whole thing continues to be so hotly debated in New Zealand. Was that hair evidence actually legitimate? Or was it contaminated somehow? Was there an unconscious or even conscious police bias against Watson because of his past record that just overshadowed the contradictory evidence?
Was justice really served? Or was an innocent man convicted based on a flawed investigation? These are huge questions that for many people, remain completely unanswered, even after all this time.
Yeah.
So we've walked through the chilling disappearance of Olivia Hope and Ben Smart back on New Year's Eve, 1997. We've looked at the highly controversial investigation that led to Scott Watson's conviction and touched on just some of the many questions that still plague this case.
Those conflicting witness statements to the disputed forensic evidence and, of course, the haunting absence of the bodies.
The Island Party murders, as it's sometimes called, it really remains shrouded in mystery and, frankly, a lot of doubt. It's a powerful testament to just how complex criminal investigations can be and how elusive absolute truth often is.
This case really forces you, doesn't it, to consider the sheer weight of circumstantial evidence and the complexities of human memory, especially under stress, and just that enduring, difficult quest for truth when you're faced with such dark uncertainties. What detail, when you think about it all, stands out to you as the most unsettling part of this whole story?
It's a lot to ponder. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into one of New Zealand's most enduring and disturbing mysteries. If you found this story compelling, perhaps unsettling, please do consider liking and sharing this deep dive.
Yeah, let others know about it.
And for more chilling explorations into true crime, unsolved mysteries, and other unsettling stories, we strongly encourage you to subscribe to the Horror Docs channel.
Stay safe out there.
Stay safe, and we'll see you next time.